Solutions Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560 The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy, returning to the Twitter files released by Elon Musk through Matt Taibbi as to the suppression of the New York Post Hunter Biden laptop story in advance of the November 2020 election. One of the individuals that was unearthed when those files were posted, Representative Ro Khanna from California, Democrat, and his conversation with Twitter General Counsel at the time about this was Vijay Getty, I think is his name. Anyway, Twitter General Counsel about the suppression of the story. And so now he's, sort of being perceived by some as, oh, well, here's an honest Democrat. He's got a op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, since he's now been disclosed. Keep in mind, he could have said publicly what he said privately to Twitter's general counsel in advance of the November 2020 election, but he didn't. So you'll excuse me if I'm not bowled over by his op-ed 2 years later, Twitter's duty to protect free speech, while he's been silent about their lack thereof for 2 years. Well, more than that, but the pertinent part is the last two. He writes, I agreed with Twitter's decision to take down explicit photos of Hunter Biden and to prevent algorithmic amplification of the post story. But there's a difference between sharing and artificially amplifying. Social media companies shouldn't have bots that amplify speech in the first place. They add chaos to the dialogue. They certainly shouldn't be abusing people's data by using it to target them with sensational content. We need to uphold the sovereign right to our data. Even so, the story itself shouldn't have been censored, and those who shared it shouldn't have been suspended. That went too far. Yeah. Some rallying around the First Amendment now. It helped my party, but it shouldn't have been done, I say 2 years after it was done. For more on this, pleased to be joined by our friend Michael Goodwin. Of course, is a columnist at the paper of record on this story, the New York Post, and he's also a Fox News contributor. Michael, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, guys. Thank you.
Are you wowed by Ro Khanna's, the unearthing of Ro Khanna and his op-ed now waving the flag for the First Amendment?
Well, all things are relative, and
yes.
To the among the Democratic Party, among the left, he does stand out as an exception, even to say what he said today, and as you rightfully note, too late to have any impact. But I do think one of the amazing phenomenons of the last cycle here, let's say the last 6 years of American politics, is the way the left has gravitated toward the FBI and toward the suppression of speech and individual liberties. This is the party that used to be the champion of civil liberties, is now the party of censorship, the party of cancellation, the party of FBI spying, of FBI censoring or leaning on private companies to censor. I mean, it's a remarkable flip for the Democratic Party. And so when Ro Khanna says that story should not have been stopped, should not have been buried, that still makes him an exception in his party, which to me is the most important thing that has happened in the age of Trump, that how crazy left the Democrats have gone. I mean, look, I remember, growing up, and certainly you guys will be aware of this, the Supreme Court decision on the Nazi march in Illinois, Skokie.
Yeah.
Right? And I remember just as a young person thinking, well, it's kind of crazy. But then over the years thinking, wow, what a wonderful country that we can tolerate, that we make room for the people we despise. I mean, that we allow them to have rights too. And we were not always consistent in that as a country, but nonetheless, that was the guiding principle. That was the law of the land. Where has that gone? I mean, we're now talking about whether the FBI should be involved in censoring news articles that it says are misinformation. I mean, that misinformation is a gap that you could drive a million trucks through. But misinformation is something I don't agree with, apparently.
Well, who decides what is and what is not misinformation?
Well, that's right.
I mean, can't I, as a grown adult, govern myself and realize this might be misinformation and then try to find out some other angles to a story?
No, but that is precisely the point of the Skokie March. It was that the answer to hate speech is more speech. And this idea that somebody will decide what is hate speech and therefore shut it down so it can't be heard because it might hurt somebody's feelings or it's dangerous is a new concept in American life. I mean, it simply has not been a popular way of thinking until the new left took over the Democratic Party and made it the pro-censor, pro-silence party.
And this is exactly what we heard from KJP, Karine Jean-Pierre, yesterday. Take a listen to her response to what was dumped on Friday, the misdirection play here. Well, no, but not misinformation, just misdirection.
Decisions were made to censor reporting leading up to the election. My question was, is it the White House view that these decisions were made appropriately in light of what has come out?
Which decisions? By whom?
By Twitter.
By Twitter on, okay. So, look, we see this as an interesting or a coincidence, if I may, that he would so haphazardly, Twitter would so haphazardly push this distraction. That is a full of old news, if you think about it. And at the same time, Twitter is facing very real and very serious questions about the rising volume of anger, hate, and anti-Semitism on their platform.
That's a nice free speech platform you got there, Elon Musk.
Yeah, that's right. Hate to see anything happen to it.
Right.
This comes from, of course, the spokesperson for the party of Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib. So if there's an anti-Semitic caucus in the Democratic Party, then I don't know why they're so worried about Twitter. Look, we shouldn't forget that ultimately this whole thing is colored by the fact that it's about Joe Biden. That is about Joe Biden's corruption. It is about whether he has been compromised by his relationship to the Chinese government, which was a financial relationship through his son and brother. That is what it's about. So that. I mean, she gave such a weak, distracting kind of answer that it was almost, boy, they're really starting to feel the heat on this. And I would just say that, at the New York Post, we have been writing about this now for more than 2 years. I think we are closer than ever to actually getting somewhere in terms of some new development that will show what really happened between Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, and all of these oligarchs and communists and corrupt companies around the world. I say that because the Republicans taking the House, Comer on oversight and Jim Jordan on judiciary, have vowed to get to the bottom of this. It's a shame that the Republicans didn't take the Senate for the same reason, because Chuck Grassley and Ron Johnson were way ahead on this issue in 2020. They actually came up with some information about the Hunter Biden transfer of funds that was part of the reason Tony Bobulinski came public, because they came up with fund transfers to the Bidens that Bobulinski wasn't aware of. And he thought that when he claimed fraud, he meant that this was for work that he did as well. And he never got a cent for the work that he did, but the Bidens got well over $10 million. And Hunter Biden, Bobulinski tells of a Hunter Biden meeting with the Chinese paymasters in a restaurant in New York in which Hunter Biden goes explosive, screaming, "You owe my family $20 million. You owe my family 20." This was for work done in 2015 and 2016 when Joe Biden was vice president. That I think we're getting closer now. We're getting closer.
I hope you're right, and and those suspicious activity reports that Jim Comer mentioned a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
Something else, though, too, that Karine Jean-Pierre said, old news. It's actually not old news, and to the extent that some people knew it, it's not old news when you have the former FBI general counsel is serving then as the deputy general counsel at Twitter and providing essentially the legal cover for the trust and safety minders at Twitter to suppress the story. And there again, that nexus between, talk about a nexus between the FBI and social media companies.
Well, first of all, it's an oxymoron to say it's old news. If it's news, it's news. But yes, to your point about Jim Baker on both sides of this, between big tech and the government, FBI during the Trump years, and I think too, as I wrote in my Sunday column, it behooves us to take a step back and see the big picture here, which is now for two presidential elections, 2016 and 2020, we have big tech and aligning with the government, the FBI, against the Trump campaign, and for first Hillary Clinton and then for Joe Biden. And of course, we have the third leg of this collusion, which is the media. So you have the New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN, etc., all pushing the narrative that Trump is colluding with Russia in 2016, and in 2020, all of them pushing the narrative that the laptop is Russian disinformation. They're twins. This is effectively a twin operation over two presidential elections with the same players. They're teammates. They're teammates on the same team trying to sway presidential elections, two of them. They failed in 2016. They were determined not to fail in 2020, and they didn't. They succeeded in suppressing the Hunter Biden laptop story, which many polls have shown that most people, I shouldn't say most, a large proportion of the voters said they did not know this information when they voted. So they succeeded in keeping it from the public. And there is one particular poll that found that 8% of Biden voters said they would not have voted for him had they known this. That would have been enough to swing the election. Mm-hmm. So this was a successful operation by the FBI, big tech, and big media to suppress news that would have changed the election. They succeeded. That is what we are up against. And so when I say we're getting closer, there's a long way to go. We're not near the end zone yet, but we have to keep pushing this because this is not just a threat to democracy. This is destroying democracy. This is overturning and subverting the will of voters. If that isn't destroying democracy, tell me what it is.
He is Michael Goodwin, columnist for the New York Post, Fox News contributor as well. Michael, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you both.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.
Are you growing your manufacturing team this year and need new employees? Turn to Monarch Technical Services. They've been leading the Chicago staffing industry for manufacturing and engineering since 1987. You'll appreciate their vetting process. They meet every candidate in person to interview and test for specific skills. Monarch assesses experience by using blueprint, shop math, part measurement, and CNC program exams. Their quality skills assessor was once a plant manager who worked on manufacturing equipment, so he recognizes who has the skills to fit each job requirement. Monarch Technical now offers a 30-day free trial with any day one direct hire. This allows you to make sure direct hire employees are fitting in before fees are paid. And they have a unique payment option which allows the finder's fee to be paid in 6 equal monthly payments. So if you're growing your manufacturing team this year and searching for exceptional talent, contact Monarch Technical Services at 847-342-1221. That's 847-342-1221. or online.